The global pharmaceutical industry, the major issue to consider is the dropping productivity of the new drugs which are coming into the market for various reasons. And one of them is because of the ever increasing regulatory demands. If you just see the canvas 3 decades back, the cost has today escalated to 10 times, and also the number of new drugs has almost reduced to less than half. Now, the biggest challenge before industry as of this date is to how to react to this. And one of the most important thing is to reduce the cost of producing new drug. And that could be done by many ways. That is first with the adoption of the new technology, something like moving into the technologies like blockchain technology or adoption of the cloud adoption technologies. This is with respect to the new technology, but moving from the regulatory aspect, going into something like from paper to digital, which would be bringing down accuracy, also the fast retrieval of data. One of the major costs in putting the new drugs is the time and the various areas. So now the industry is going in for a newer model like adoption, or going in for the contract research and the contract, even the development activities, which hitherto was taken as a holy cow, which never it was practiced. But today it has become the fact of the situation, and we need to look into this aspect. Should you be wanting to be in the business to meet this? Finally, at the end of the day, it is the customer who pays for it, and we need to look after the customer interest to bring. And there are a lot of issues surrounding this, are the issues faced by the industry. The innovative trends for in the outsourcing is that probably we would want the vendor or the supplier things to come with a basket of services, because it's not one single thing which could be outsourced. Probably it should come with a lot of complementary things. For example, if I'm outsourcing my laundry or my clean, we would be wanting in the clean room what are all the clean room accessories which are required, and if the services come along with that. In a clean room, there are many other services like filter integrity testing or the smoke visualization testing, or so many other things are there. If they come along with this thing, these are the recent trend, because now people want more and more, I won't say non-critical, but which are not non-core activity to my operation to be outsourced. So this is the recent trend, and it is catching up. We would be left behind in the race if we don't take cognizance of the required, the newer thing. So for something like Lindstrom had to really burn a lot of midnight oil in understanding what is the industry requirement and to catch up with that. I would add 2 more issues over here, is that we should be also studying what are all the competitors up to. And second thing, really approaching the industry and requesting or maybe probing more into their expectations and requirement, so that we are ahead of race, first in time, right in time, and always in time. So that these are the things, these are the buzzwords probably everybody wants in industry to do practice. The critical factors which I would want into in our this kind of business is the assurance of supply. See, for example, when I outsource, there's always a big question mark, and the people within the organization, they keep asking us how sure we are about the security of supply. Because when we talk of just in time or anything in time, it is the security of supply. And if it fails, it's not the operation fails, it's the business fails, because the opportunities don't wait for you. There are 10 guys waiting outside for you to fail. Okay, they're waiting outside for you to fail on the opportunity, should that happen. So that's the reason one of the most important thing for us to make it sure beyond doubt that the security of supply is not at peril at any given circumstances at any given time. If this is not done, probably the outsourcing option is not worth considering. Fortunately, pharmaceutical industry has excellent example to quote about outsourcing. One of them, I would not call it recent, but one of them which really I have practiced it is the outsourcing of the rubber plugs for the injectable vials. Now that was something, is a component which comes in contact with the product, and earlier it was felt that this cannot be outsourced at all. So from that preamble or from that premise, industry came that why this cannot be done, and one major company, they came out with this thing: we will provide you the plugs which could be washed by us, manufactured by us, washed by us, you only sterilize it and use it. They went one step further. He said, we will manufacture the plug, wash them, sterilize them, you only use it. And this has really made the life so easy for the pharmaceutical company. Today, even though the cost per piece was coming to less about 8 to 7 cents, earlier which was felt as sort of a very prohibitive, now considering or weighing the bottom line, people feel it's economical, because major portion of your equipment, which is autoclave, is very, very difficult to for validation purpose. And second thing is that it takes away a lot of your bandwidth and time and the cost, because manufacturing finance is one of the most hidden things, and not many people understand the cost which is involved in the manufacturing. And if you take the cognizance of it, the back of the envelope calculation will itself prove it that it's in. And if you go into the detailed costing of it, probably you find that such kind of crucial or crucial activity which was hitherto felt as a sort of impossible, not to consider, is possible. Second thing is, now industry is considering of pre-sterilized vials. There's another 10 years back, somebody would have got my head examined to check with it, what this guy is talking, does he understand anything about the business? But no, today is possible. My job is to give drug to a patient. He's not worried about what kind of thing which I do, as long as I comply with the guidelines. And if I get the same process done in a cheaper way, efficient way, better way, what way it is different? That is, there are many like this thing. Contract research is one of the things which was about 25 years back. Research was a holy cow. We felt that every operation in the research was quote unquote confidential, nothing to be discussed. Today, mundane things, for example, if I develop a process and it has to be analyzed by a standard method, there is nothing confidential about it. Methods are published in the pharmacopoeia. I tell the vendor to come study this thing and you analyze. I am not telling him my process. I am not telling him my manufacturing secret. I am just telling you, take this material, analyze and give it back to me. I save my time. And these activities can be done simultaneously. So this can save my time. And that's the reason these couple of examples, industry has benefited immensely by this thing. Here I would like to say that the concept of outsourcing per se itself is not a new one. It has been there, and for last 25-30 years, industry has been talking about the core competency. In other words, it means that you should do what you are expected to do. Do not do everything under the sun. And if you do it, probably you will bring in a lot of inefficiency with respect to cost, time, speed. So that's one of the important thing is, and second thing is expertise. If I were to do this job, I may be, but I will not be able to do with his kind of expertise, and that I can get at much cheaper rate. So why shouldn't you do that? So that's the reason is outsourcing is just not passing on your buck. Outsourcing is a need of the hour. Second important thing about outsourcing is that the expert will be able to comply with the regulatory obligation in much better way than you all. So what are you doing? You are transferring your problem to somebody else. So you are not transferring your responsibility, but you are transferring your worries. And that's a big thing, because in the pharmaceutical operation, dealing with the regulatory non-compliance is a big issue. And that is a sort of a non-value added, but it's very important. And it takes away a lot of your bandwidth, cost, as well as the manpower and uncertainty around this thing. So probably you are removing all these things by outsourcing. So outsourcing is a sort of a very better option which is widely accepted, and believe me, even the competitor is doing. So if you don't do, you will be left behind. Choice is yours. Okay, coming to that, the first guideline which we would want into the textile provider, they must understand what are the regulatory obligations are. And first and foremost, there has to be a big change in the mindset because earlier everybody felt that whatever we give, that has to be accepted, especially for this kind of business. That was not something. The reason being, there is a very distinct difference between other industry and this industry, because this is, you are dealing with public life, public health, drug contamination, product to product contamination, product to environment contamination, product to human contamination. Now, to deal with this kind, there is a very, very great need for the suppliers to understand the industry needs. So that's the first thing. Cost definitely has to be compatible, and the third is the efficiency into supply chain, which are the three major things we would like to give the guidelines to the government manufacturer. My answer to this will be a big no, because because this particular operation is, if it is for the clean room, it takes away a lot of your bandwidth with related to one of your critical equipment, autoclave. And it is not only the equipment, it is the cost of the equipment, it is the operational cost of the equipment, and it is the validation time. For regulatory agencies, people around their business must understand 30% of the equipment time has to be used only for validation purpose. In other words, in the common man language, it's of no use to you. So when you buy an equipment, 60% is there, 30% is gone. Now this 30% you have got to be paying for it, because banks won't stop charging you interest, customers won't wait for you. So these kind of thing, considering all that thing, it is thoroughly economic. I'm not considering about the human cost. I'm not talking about the operational cost. I'm not talking about the documentation cost. That's an add-on. Okay, I mean, the industry report says that the documentation and the documentation cost per person is $20,000 per annum. Just imagine, nobody calculates this, but if you see, that's a cost which goes into that. So if you consider all that, my very blatant answer to this thing will be, industry should not venture into a non-core activity, and better go for any competent vendor for this particular services. The adherence to the regulatory guidelines, that is the one which probably the industry has to look into. The reason being, regulatory guidelines are no fixed thing. They keep on adding, both in number and in direction and in the spread of it. And the speed is phenomenal, the way things are happening. Now, the one way to do is that to keep the industry, keep in touch with this thing. That is the biggest challenge the industry has to face. Secondly, as I mentioned just now, that the costs is one which the industry has to see. How are you going to bring the cost? Second important thing, what you said, and then the speed is something. You cannot give the drug which is required today, yesterday. For example, we have seen the recent pandemic, and the drugs were really required yesterday. Some places we have seen that the drugs were put, cutting down some of the things and taking certain risks, wherein some decisions, even not at the scientific level, but even at the political level, were taken to bring the drugs, the vaccines and all, to see that the public at large is benefited. And at the bottom line of it, I would say that whatever said and done, the drugs must have the human face. Finally, the medicines are not for those who can afford, medicines for those who need it. Because at the end of the day, we have to reach the medicine who really need it. I mean, of course, it's not a holistic approach. We have the business drivers for doing any operation, but things are changing at a faster grip. Couple of years back, probably you were into sort of a very a solo kind of thing, but today the competition is very high. There is no way you are in that domain wherein you say whatever is. So the competition is there. So that is driving. And if we don't take cognizance of the factors around you, probably you will be out of the race. So that's the reason which I feel that some of the points which I mentioned, they need to be looked into very seriously by the industry.